Welcome to today's interview, where we delve into the impressive strides of China's naval capabilities with Commodore R.S. Vasan, Director General, China Center for China Studies, and Regional Director, National Maritime Foundation, Chennai Chapter, and our in-house maritime expert. We'll be focusing on the latest addition to China's naval fleet, the Fujian, which marks a great milestone in their carrier program. Launched amidst great fanfare on June 17, 2022, after its construction at Shanghai's Jiangnan shipyard, the Fujian has now embarked on its inaugural sea trials in May 2024, an important phase before its formal induction into the PLA's Navy. Distinguished by its advanced features, which Fujian surpasses its predecessors, the Liaoning and the Shandong, in both size and as well as in capability. With a displacement of approximately 80,000 tons, it outmatches the Liaoning's 60,000 tons and Shandong's 66,000 tons, positioning itself as a formidable asset on the global naval stage. Notably, its size eclipses renowned carriers like France's Charles de Gaulle and the UK's HMS Queen Elizabeth. In this discussion, Commodore Vasan will shed light on the strategic implications of Fujian's advancements, its impact on regional dynamics, and the broader context of China's evolving maritime strategy. Let's delve into the insights and analysis provided by our Director General. Sir, my first question to you would be, how does the commissioning of the Fujian impact China's naval strategy and its ability to project power in the Indo-Pacific region, especially in South China Sea? How does the introduction of this Fujian affect the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific as well, particularly concerning China's naval capabilities vis-a-vis those of US and its allies such as Japan and Australia?
Thank you, Anu. This is an important development as far as the PLA Navy's maritime capabilities concerned. It's not that they are new to carriers. They have had two carriers, totally conventional, both in terms of propulsion as well as in terms of the short takeoff but arrested recovery mechanisms, which means that it had a ramp, just like our own Indian carriers have, and therefore the ability was quite limited. With this moving on to the EMALS, this is basically electromagnetic launch system, and it's also called the CATOBAR. There's the catapult assisted takeoff and arrested recovery. So with this, it has breached certain technological challenges that were there. And it's almost on par with the US Navy in terms of the launch capability. But just a launch or a recovery capability itself does not design the capability of a carrier battle group. So the Chinese Navy has a long way to go in terms of using the carrier as an effective weapon, that augments its foreign policy aspirations. So yes, this is something that is to be taken note of. All that has happened is the sea trials are over. I think they sailed for about 8 days or whatever. But what they essentially proved was only about the propulsion, the electric system, and also some of the trials which are pending. This will be an ongoing process before the aircraft actually start flying from the deck. It's not that they already started flying from the deck. And that will take a long haul, as we ourselves experienced in the case of our own indigenous Vikrant, which took about a year for integration of the MiG-29s, which we operate from our carrier, the Sea Kings and other type of aircraft, which is required for both offensive and defensive roles. So as far as this new carrier is concerned, it's very evident that a lot of hard work has been put in to overcome some of the technological responses that were there. But in my assessment, the limitation of the carrier-borne aircraft still remain. Why do I say this? It is expected that it is the J-15 which will fly. It will also fly the airborne early warning aircraft, a mix of helicopters which are required for ASW, anti-surface warfare, etc. They also require aircraft for search and rescue missions, just like any other carrier group. So it's expected that some 50 to 60 aircraft will be on board. But this mix is not enough, particularly when you also look at the fact that the J-15 is on the heavier side, and particularly from the previous aircraft carriers, namely the Liaoning and the Shandong, they were not able to take off with full payload because the aircraft itself was heavy. It is the same case even in the Indian carrier, which is using the ramp for launching the aircraft. It always brings down the effective payload of an aircraft when you are using these STOPR concept, the short takeoff but assisted recovery concept. From that point of view, the fact that they're going to use EMAL is a great advantage in launching heavier aircraft and also in ensuring that they're not unduly worried about the effect of wind, etc. So, however, there are many challenges as I see ahead. And once it's integrated into the PLA Navy, it would redefine the contours of maritime security challenges in the Indo-Pacific, not just in the South China Sea, but also in the areas of interest to China. Everything revolves around the white paper they brought out in 2015, where they are looking at operation in the far seas to be able to influence the course of events. So the acquisition of the carriers is an integral part of their ambition to be a navy almost similar to what the US Navy has done. The US Navy, since the time of World War, has been a potent has applied naval force in the different theaters. And China is not in a position to match the capability of the carrier battle group of the US Navy as of now. It'll take a long time. So will it have any impact in the South China Sea? It's limited as of now. Once it's integrated, and if it does develop the kind of capability of a full-fledged carrier battle group on the same lines as US Navy, then maybe it will have some impact. But also, just one conventional carrier, which is not nuclear. The other notable factor is that there's not a nuclear propulsion. That means it does not have unlimited range. It will be constrained by the fuel load that it carries along with the rest of the load that it has to sustain. That means it will require support from a tanker. That means the tanker is both a liability, but it's inescapable if it has to sustain its operations in extended reaches beyond the first and second line of defense in the Indo-Pacific, and also if it wants to have forays in the Indian Ocean region. So, by way of my opening response to your first question, I think this should be adequate to say that yes, there is a capability that's being acquired, and it is of importance to the PLA Navy, but it has a long time before it can mature and provide those viable options for PLA Navy, which has global ambitions and also has an aspiration to replace US Navy, and USA itself in global affairs.
Okay, thank you, sir. So on these lines, I also want to know in what ways does this Fujian's design and operational characteristics compare to those of the other leading aircraft carriers such as the USS Gerald R. Ford and the Nimitz class carriers? And how might these comparisons inform assessments of naval capabilities and potential future conflicts, if any?
Again, when you draw the reference to the comparison between the US naval carriers and the PLA Navy carriers, it's very obvious that there is a lot of gap in terms of the total operational effectiveness of what a US carrier, such as the Ford, brings to the table, or now what Fujian is likely to bring to the table for the PLA Navy some years from now. The essential difference is that one is the mix of aircraft, and that's also the kind of support that the US naval carrier gets. One is it is free of the fuelers, which accompany a fleet. It's not required because they are propelled by the nuclear reactors. So that is something that obviously China is planning to overcome in the next carrier. That may happen, 5 to 10 years from now. But it's not going to be very difficult for them to now move on to nuclear propulsion. So whatever is required in terms of size and capability would be proved in the Fujian, because the size almost matches some of the carriers of the US Navy. However, the carrier's effectiveness is defined more by the type of aircraft that it carries. And so from that point of view, there is a certain amount of deficiency as far as the PLA Navy is concerned, because it's still got these J-15s. It's likely that they'll bring the J-35. On paper, they look similar to some of the Western aircraft that they are. But in terms of the weapons, in terms of their reliability, in terms of their integration, in terms of their trustworthiness, is something that is still a lot of question marks, because there have been reports of they're not being fully successful in training their pilots for the carrier. There have been many accidents. There have been malfunctions. And so this is something that would haunt them as they try to catch up with the US Navy. It will be a long, long time. So when you compare other capabilities, please remember that the carrier battle group of the US Navy is a completely composite force. They have nuclear submarines ahead of the formation. They have airborne early warning aircraft. They have satellites providing information. They have integral air, which provides a continuous combat air patrol, which we call CAP. It has ASW protection. It has, increasingly, they'll also be using a lot of AI augmented information support systems. So these are something that are evolving all the time. And obviously, the kind of experience for decades that US Navy cannot be replicated in just decades, 1 decade of experience of operating a conventional carrier. So the nuclear carrier is the future as far as China is concerned. We are also looking at this, but it will take a long time. But like I said, the mix of the aircraft, their capability, the integration of the human element into carrier-borne operations, the support elements are something that is a complex mechanism that requires phenomenal amount of time, effort, and energy to make it into a fighting arm for the PLA Navy. So there's considerable time in my assessment.
Oh, okay, sir. So, how does the Fujian actually fit into the broader naval modernization efforts? And what are the signals does it, does its commissioning send regarding China's long-term naval ambitions and investments in maritime capabilities? As you were also mentioning that in 5 to 10 years they'll come up with the next aircraft. So,
No, the point about technology is very important, but also the numbers are important. The numbers are important because as of today, the PL Navy has already crossed the 370 mark, which is more than what the US Navy has in terms of numbers, sheer numbers. But sheer quantity does not define quality. Also, as I have always highlighted the fact that when you have so many disputes in your area, in your neighborhood, in the South China Sea, and you have so many disputants who are arming themselves, like Philippines is going in BrahMos, they are looking at the combat aircraft from other countries. There has been a feverish pitch of coordinated activity in the South China Sea. You saw recently US, Philippines, Japan, Australia all working together. So it has raised the heat in this area. And so technology does play an important factor. But China is not just looking at the carrier. It's also investing heavily in unmanned drones, unmanned underwater vehicles, because the Russia-Ukraine war has brought to the fore the importance of using AI-aided unmanned aerial vehicles, surface vehicles, and subsurface vehicles. Because many of the losses suffered by Russia have been because of these coordinated swarm attacks by drones. They have been effective. I'm talking about the Ukrainian Navy, who used smaller, surface vessels, which are automated and unmanned, loaded with explosives, which have caused destruction and sinking of Russian ships. So this is the contour of challenges that PLA Navy will face. It's not just the PLA Navy, but it will also be faced by the other forces, whether it's US, Japan, or whoever there. They all are going to be facing the same kind of thing, and that has to be factored when they are planning for operations in the Indo-Pacific area. So technology will play an important role, not just in terms of EMAL, which is required for launching heavier aircraft, but nuclear propulsion, which is a proven concept for both nuclear submarines as well as nuclear carriers. And obviously, China will achieve this capability, but not in the distant future. But it will also be conscious of what it itself aimed to achieve earlier. I'm talking about the A2AD concept, which tried to keep the carrier, the US carrier battle group, outside of the first and second line of defense. Idea was to keep it far away so that it's not effective if there is any confrontation. So this is not unique to China. This can also be adopted by other navies. So it's not that it owns the A2AD concept. So the some modified concepts of the A2AD would also be adopted by the navies in the Vietnam, Philippines, Japan, Australia. All these people would have thought of implementing some similar concepts of the A2AD. With the means may be very different, but the ends are same, which is to keep your adversary at bay. So this is an important development in terms of technology. So the technology with the application, the newer technologies which are going into AI-enabled platforms, unmanned aircraft, unmanned surface vessels, unmanned underwater vehicles, and high-speed missiles, which we also have experimented recently. Uh, Smart missiles, I must refer to this, which is basically a missile launched torpedo. So the whole maritime scenario is getting complex and complexer by the day, if I can use that term. So obviously, technology will have some solutions, but technology alone cannot defeat an adversary. It is the quality of the manpower that's there. So this is where the quality of the PLA Navy personnel, or they also the kind of unprofessionalism that's been demonstrated in close encounters with other navies and aircraft in the region, is something that tells you that they have a lot to do, and not just be somebody who uses technology, but in terms of a composite fighting war machine, they have a long time to.
Okay, thank you, sir. So one last question for this, which is a crucial question for us. What are the implications of this new aircraft carrier to India's security and strategic capability, especially in the Indo-Pacific region, if I may ask?
One important thing that you must would have noticed, the observers, analysts would have noticed, is that despite operating the two carriers for some time now, nearly 10 years plus, none of the carriers have come into the Indian Ocean region. It tells you that obviously they are still to overcome the complexities that are involved in operating a carrier battle group far away from the shores. So it requires bases. If the bases are not there, they require a complete support system in terms of tankers, in terms of logistic vessels, in terms of other support mechanisms that are required, which will enable the PLA Navy to operate. So in the near future, you can look at maybe 5 to 10 years from now, it's certain that the carrier will make its presence in the Indian Ocean region soon. But they need to first address the issues of supporting the carrier battle group at extended ranges from their own shore. So the security dynamics in the Indian Ocean region are not immediately going to change. But it's been challenged already by the presence of the research vessels, the presence of the nuclear submarines, which have been making forays into our area, and also because of the fact that they created a military base in Djibouti, which can perhaps support the carrier as and when it comes here, and also other patrol vessels and anti-piracy vessels, which have been coming into the Indian Ocean region. So they're also supplying 8 submarines to Pakistan. So this will complicate the surface and subsurface picture in the Arabian Sea, which is of crucial importance for sea lanes of communication. It's of crucial importance because a lot of economic activity is going on the west coast as well as on the east coast. So these are issues that Indian strategists, Indian policymakers will have to take note of, to factor the presence of the Chinese Navy, which is already happening here. But in future, as and when the complete carrier battle group comes in here, it will present both opportunities and challenges. Why do I say opportunities? Because if at all they have to come into the Indian Ocean region, unlike the submarines, they first have to transit the Malacca Straits or the Lumbar Straits or whatever. But the point is that they will be spotted and they'll be continuously tracked. But what is it that they aim to do when the carrier battle group comes here? These are questions that must be asked. A carrier is here. It is both a means of this demonstration of power and posturing. However, what is the role of the Chinese aircraft carrier if it comes into the Indian Ocean region? These are questions that the PLA Navy would have looked at. But we, as the main adversary of China, we also need to factor in while planning our naval operations and our counters. India is already, I think, planning on similar areas. Some of this in the public domain, some of this may not be the public domain. But the strengthening of the Andaman Nicobar area, Car Nicobar, developing our airfields there, having a new naval deep water port in Galatia. These are some of the counters that will make issues complicated for the carrier battle group of the PLA Navy to make its forays into the Indian Ocean region. But it's not something that will that you can say will not happen. It will happen. It will happen sooner than later. But we need to have our contingencies as well as our counters in place so that you are not taken by surprise. In the meanwhile, this is something the development of the carrier force. They are committed to having perhaps maybe 8 to 10 carriers in the next 10 years, and that they will do it because there is financial support, there is experience available. The shipyards are churning out ships left, right, and center. The numbers are, like I said, more than what the US Navy possesses. But there are other complexities which are there in the region, which PLA Navy has to address before the carrier battle group, in the conventional sense, can be deployed in forces to achieve their objectives. So it's all a question of work in progress, and it will take a long time before it's something that they can claim they are equal to both the capacity, capability to match their intentions in the forces as per their white paper which are promulgated.
So one last question. I know it might sound silly, but then, sir, with such aircraft being, with such advancements and developments from China's side, do you think this will give, even like a confidence or even more of a power to China to like keep dominating, keep dominating and assert its presence in South China Sea and as well as the, Indo-Pacific region altogether?
No, that's a very interesting question because obviously with the kind of muscle power that it already has, it's been trying to twist the arms of its neighbors. We've seen what's happening in Japan in the East China Sea. We've seen in the case of fishermen how the military militia is being used to browbeat them. We saw this video very recently of one of the fishing vessels being harassed by the Chinese Navy. We have had reports of close encounters with Australian helicopters and Chinese fighters. So all this shows that they are trying to browbeat their neighbors, whether it is a smaller neighbor or a bigger neighbor. Even in the case of the US Navy, I think just last week, there was this incident where Chinese Navy claimed that they drove out a destroyer from their waters. But the US Navy clearly said that as far as we are concerned, we carried out our freedom of navigation operations, and when the destroyer finishes its task, it comes. So these incidents that are happening at regular intervals in the South China Sea indicate to us that the situation is going to get even more complex. The addition of the nuclear carrier from the PLA Navy, the formation of AUKUS, which is already happening, the Quad++, which seems to be happening now with the participation of other navies in the American scheme of things to contain China. So it is the pot is boiling in South China Sea, and that is not a good thing to happen. But however, there will be forays and parlays in the diplomatic, in the military, in the economic, political levels between these countries, as you saw in the last visit of Blinken and others, which has happened. So this will be a continuous act that's going on. But the neighbors are obviously very concerned about the new found capabilities of China, and also the fact that there are new formations that are coming up in the Indo-Pacific is a matter of concern to China. It's not that China is totally immune to the happenings out there. So it is equally affected. So its ability to respond to anything there is space is shrinking. When you find too many people who are coming into Indo-Pacific and new formations such as the Quad++ or the AUKUS or other organizations coming into play, you find that China's own space is shrinking, and the challenges are too many for China. So all that has to be factored in It's not just the naval development or a nativity development that will allow China to have its say. There are other factors of great relevance in balancing and controlling the volatile situation in the Indo-Pacific, which does not do any good to anybody. But obviously, as far as US, I think the primary aim is to contain China. So they're going all out to contain China, and China is conscious of the fact that it does not have too many friends. So this is where the situation is. So the carrier which is also a symbol of naval supremacy, has come into the horizon. But like I said, it will be a long time before it's integrated, and there are complexities involved in integration of an asset such as the carrier, which brings in its own challenges of maintenance, of manpower training, of the challenges that are there from their enemies in the area. So this is something that is a dynamic situation, and we in India will continue to watch this situation, because the happenings in the Indo-Pacific also affect India and its preparedness to take on the counters in the coming decades.
Thank you very much, sir. With all your answers, I guess I am out of questions now. So as far as what I've understood is that although there are certain amount of deficiency, and although it might look similar with, on papers regarding China and US, positions and all that, there are still a lot of gaps to cover by China, and which will not, happen in the near future in any time soon. So this will take quite a few years to kick in. However, China's developed AI is one matter of concern for all of the countries. While in terms of numbers, maybe China has surpassed US, but with terms of quality, it still remains where it is supposed to be in the current scenario. And it is also important to keep in mind about China's specific technological advancements with the help of AI as well. So the whole maritime scenario, I feel, is getting complicated day by day, and it's getting interesting also. And with all your comments and everything, I'm sure we have a lot more to see, and a lot more of such interviews also. So with regards to its assertion and dominance, even though it has so much, China requires vast support from other countries, but with no so-called friends, friends and everything, I don't think that is also quite possible for it to come up with. And neighbors, or however, with regards to the Indo-Pacific region, they are concerned. With the new formations that you've mentioned, this might be a new development, in the near future, specifically to counter China's dominance. So this is what I've understood with the whole interview. Thank you very much for spending your time for this interview, sir. As usual, it was a delight having you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks.